Doug here with Hollywood Rodents, and of course Danica, my daughter. And we have the Hollywood Rodents rodent business here in Missoula, and we also have the Designs by Danica Instagram page. The rodent side of stuff we kind of try to keep a little separate than the python breeding stuff, but anyhow, a couple little housekeeping things that I want to sort of do. First off, I want to say thank you to our Patreon subscribers. We have two right now. We have Lynn Tavorsky, or I'm Your Huckleberry, is one of her Instagram pages. Her other one is Passion for Pythons. Go check her out. She's got some really cool stuff. It's nice to see people like Lynn that are passionate about these animals. She also has some boas that are really cool. As you all know, boas really aren't my thing, but we have one. We have a big red-tailed female. She's a sweetheart. But anyhow, and then also Ashley Munoz is another one of our supporters. Ashley, thank you very much. We couldn't do what we do without your guys' support. And again, part of our $5 Patreon subscription level, what we're doing with that is I do have a normal female that we have paired with Donald Duck, Danica's favorite animal. You want to grab him? And what we'll be creating with that, so Donald Duck is a black pastel albino ball python, and we'll be creating some either black pastels or normals, and they will all be het for albino. We're going to give away that entire clutch to our Patreon subscribers. It's just a way of us saying thank you, and that is her neckwear for the evening, her attire. He's a sweetheart. He's one of our very first animals. But anyhow, so I put it out today to ask some questions of people to see if there was stuff that you wanted us to cover, questions that you wanted to ask. And my buddy Jay, Black Viking 707 on Instagram, he asked a question, and he said, how do you get over your fear of snakes, and were you afraid when you started? I believe that's how he asked the question, yes. How do you get over your fear of snakes, and were you afraid of them when you guys started? Okay, so that's a good question. Danica, were you afraid of snakes when we got started?
No.
Okay. I think that children are inherently not afraid of very many things because they haven't learned that the things that are dangerous, they rely on us as adults to teach them. And so I do feel that when we have animals like snakes that we deal with, the fear that an adult or the people that they look up to, that is ingrained in them. So understanding that Jay came from Africa, and he said in one of his videos the other day that he might have been born in Africa, but he was American made, and I agree. Jay and I are really, really good friends, and he's somebody that I definitely look up to for a lot of reasons, but he is deathly afraid of snakes, and I've offered several times for him to come down and check him out. But anyhow, guys, back to the question. The way that I would help people get over their fears is I would start them with different sized animals, and I would never, as a handler, put an animal in somebody's hands that I felt posed any kind of a risk to them. If they are creeped out by albino animals, then Donald Duck wouldn't be our first choice to have somebody handle for a first time. But if they aren't, then he's a great animal. He's a little bit active, so he kind of likes to move a bit. As you can see, he's running on Danica, but that's how he is. He's super sweet. He's never bit anybody. Well, with the exception of he did give Danica kind of a warning strike one time because she had put him in her boot and was trying to get him out. And of course we had that discussion before, and it's not this isn't a time for me to try to, tell my daughter she did something wrong or anything like that, but she made a mistake as a handler, and she put herself in a position where that animal felt threatened. So one of the ways to get over that fear, obviously, of course, is to handle an animal. If you notice, if you go back A few weeks ago, we went live on Facebook, not only with this page, but with the Carpet Garage page. Brent Tollefson, the guy that owns the company, he's deathly afraid of snakes too, and he came down and he actually touched and sort of held one of our snakes, and he really faced that fear. Now he's probably still afraid, and that's fine. He did a great job, and he's a wonderful person, and was a great sport, kind of trying to going into that challenge. I feel like since we're talking about my buddy Jay, and since we really are addressing his question, that I need to get out the animal that I had named after him. Yeah, please. And that's this guy right here. This is my cinnamon male. He's not the easiest of guys to handle. He's a little temperamental some days. Not very active, but again, he's a beautiful, beautiful snake. I don't know that I would do that, kiddo. But anyhow, he's a good-looking dude. He and you can see none of these animals really pose any sort of a harm to anybody. Now, I didn't really grow up afraid of snakes. I grew up in a place where there were rattlesnakes, so we had to be very cautious, but never afraid. Part of that is because when you have a place near where you go to grade school, like Reptile Gardens in Rapid City, South Dakota, and you can go to this place a couple times a year and see animals, and then they bring, reptiles and stuff. Jump up here and sit down so people can see you. When they bring reptiles and things like that to schools, and they do presentations and things like that, and they educate and help you realize that these animals really aren't out to hurt you. They're just out to survive. Keep in mind, this guy's a pretty good sized animal. This is a pretty good sized male adult ball python. But to him, we're giants. And we're predators. We could be predators. Anything we do that takes him out of his comfort zone could be seen as predatory. So, we just work with these guys a lot and make them so that they're handleable. Part of that fear response and wanting to help people not be afraid of things is why we educate. That's why we go to schools. That's why we go to her old preschool. And we get little kids in front of these animals, and we show them that when they're treated with respect, you're really not in any danger. So that's really the key to it is find a handler. If you're wanting to conquer your fear of snakes, find somebody that you trust that has an animal that you're not scared of. Now, you might be scared of the concept of a snake, but there might be certain colors that aren't going to bother you nearly as much. There might be certain size animals that aren't going to bother you as much. If somebody didn't want to handle an animal the size of Donald Duck, then I would get out one of the hatchlings that we have from this year, and I would let them handle that. Of course, I would ball them up, meaning I would tap their head, put them in a ball, and then you could really see why a ball python is called a ball python. That's because that's what they do when they're afraid. But they don't generally have a fear response, like they like to bite people or things like that. The types of bites that you'll get are either a fear response to something you've done, or a food response. So, if I come into the shop and I start handling rats, and then I just stick my hand in one of these cages during breeding season with one of our females that's used to eating a lot, I'm probably going to get bit. So, you want to add anything, Danica? You sure? How much fun was it to go to your preschool 2 times and show off your snakes? Was that something you really enjoyed? You can talk.
Yeah.
Did the kids enjoy it? How many little kids do we get to handle a snake for the very first time?
I don't know.
Like 20 probably?
I don't know.
A lot of them, huh? And was it cool to listen to them talk about how much fun they had after we left?
Yes.
Yeah, see, so we're trying to create a lasting impression on people, and we're trying our hardest to make it so that they enjoy this, and that they don't just, every snake they see in the wild, they don't just chop its head off, because that snake didn't do anything to deserve that. This guy's just trying to survive. He's got my hand wrapped up. So anyhow, guys, we're going to sign off here. I'm going to get a little bit of chores done, and then we're going to go and enjoy our weekend, because Danica and I get to spend the weekend together. So anyhow, as soon as she gets him put away. So drop some comments on what you want to see next. The day-to-day stuff with the rat the rat care. Those videos kind of had some views, and anything, it didn't really get a lot of comments. So I'm just kind of looking for some feedback. We want to be a lot more interactive with our audience. We're trying hard to put out really good content. And make sure that this is stuff that people want to see, that we're presenting it in a format that you all want to see. Come over here, kiddo, so we can say goodbye. So anyhow, guys, like I said, we got a few little chores to do, and then Danica and I are going to go hang out and do something kind of fun. So,
I don't have chores to do.
All right, guys, peace out. Recording this.
It's recording.
Yep. So,
I have to work on this one for a little bit.
no, just a second.
Finding steak.